there. It says it started, so it started, I'm guessing. We had a few technical difficulties last time and this time, so here's hoping everything goes smoothly. Hi, Samantha.
Hello.
Yeah, last time, I don't think anybody's seen it yet because I haven't sent it out and to my people who watch it, but there was an echo. So if the echo happens again, we're going to hang up and then start over again for reasons that are, we don't want annoying echoes. This time around, because Samantha explained to me during the Gem and the Holograms episode that she did not like the Winter Soldier movie, and I promptly freaked out. My apologies. As a result of that, I was like, you know what? I know some of the things that you like, and I have a feeling that you would really like the first Captain America movie. And she was like, yeah, sure I would. Okay, let's pretend like that I would. Let's see what happens. And so we watched it, and in case you can't tell, I kind of like Captain America a little bit, just a tiny bit, mainly from the movies. I haven't read as many Captain America comics, and full disclosure, I've been reading Captain America comics, but they are the Captain America comics where Captain America is dead and Bucky Barnes is Captain America, so I still can't really say I know that much about the comics. But I love this movie. I've watched this movie so many times when I first got it and when it first came out. This movie and Scott Pilgrim are the reasons that I love Chris Evans. Not the reasons, but one of the reasons I started like thinking Chris Evans was awesome and wonderful. And then Twitter happened and it just made it better. But what were your thoughts, Samantha?
You are correct. I saw Winter Soldier before having seen the first Captain America and hated it. Thought it was awful. But having seen the first one now, completely acquiesce that A, seeing things in order is important.
Yeah, yes.
And B, it was actually a lot more of an intelligent movie than I was expecting. It was a lot more interesting than I was expecting. And as a history nerd, I was really interested in that period of time that it takes place. And I loved the montage sequence of when they threw in the comics that he was in while in the movie about the comics, and like that was very cool, and I got really interested in that part of it. And yeah, I mean, I was impressed by the acting. I was really impressed by the cinematography, way more than I would have thought to be from a comic book movie. So, and of all the comic book movies I've seen, I thought this had one of the most interesting stories. It was kind of refreshingly original to me as a comic book movie. And I just think that's because of the story. I like that they spent so much time in the beginning on him as a character and who he was. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it for a lot of different reasons. So
that's good. Yeah, it's also interesting, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started the show, that Samantha's watching this, even though she hasn't seen all of the superhero movies that I've seen, which for me is like all of them except for Man of Steel. Which someday I will watch, I promise, maybe for this show. And it's kind of a different environment to see it in, because then it was like the third or the fourth, I don't know. It was like Iron Man, Thor, and then Captain America, but we might have had Iron Man 2 at that point. I don't remember. I think Iron Man 2 had already happened. And so, it's now we've seen so many trailers of so many movies, and then they kind of the same thing. They fight lots and lots and lots of people. And this one's a little different, where it's a little bit more one-on-one. Anyway, we're going to go through the movie like step by step. We're not going to go through every single scene, even though I did write down every single scene change. But just as a guide to guide us through the discussion, I do want to make a note before we start that my brother hates this movie. And to be clear, my brother and I have weird parallels in what we like, in that there's a lot of similarities, but then there's like this distinct things that we do not like. Like he goes very much scary, creepy, and I go very much more like cute and happy. He actually sent me a comment the other day of like Winnie the Pooh and like Christopher Robin saying like, I have to tell you something serious, and Winnie the Pooh's like, you can tell me later, like never. You can tell me never. That's cool. He's like, this is you. And I was like, yeah, that's accurate. And there's a lot of people who like hate this movie. They think that it's like boring or silly or simple or, those various things. So I do want to make a note that like not everybody likes this movie, just like to my shock, not everybody likes Winter Soldier, because my brother loves Winter Soldier. So I love both of them. That's, yeah. I did not like Age of Ultron, but I did like it as an action movie. But anyway, so I just wanted to make a note that like I am aware that there are people who do not like this movie, and I acknowledge that. And I can see where they come from, in that like it's not it's not like it really isn't like the other Marvel movies. And at this point, go ahead.
I think that's kind of where my liking of it is sort of coming from the entire other direction, is because I was actually watching it sort of as a movie rather than at first I was watching it as a comic book movie. It was like, oh, it's another comic book movie. Is it the Avengers? Is it this? Is it that? I don't understand this, because they're all kind of lumped together for me a little bit. But once it started, I was like, this feels more like a standalone film in many more ways than other ones tend to for me in that particular series. So yeah, just as another voice in that kind of, discussion of people liking or disliking, it feels like that's a kind of polarizing. They like it, from a completely nerdy perspective, or they don't like it from a completely nerdy perspective. And that was sort of coming in the middle a little bit. Yeah. And I enjoyed it as an actual standalone sort of production. So
yeah. So, it's an interesting movie from that respect. And I was listening to a podcast. Again, we haven't even started talking about the movie yet, but we haven't done a show in a while. I miss it. I was listening to this great podcast. They're doing all these nerdy, like, comics sort of based podcasts are doing like a crossover called Secret Convergence on Infinite Podcasts, and I'd highly recommend it. The first one was like who would win in a fight, and the first two heroes that they talked about was like the Silver Surfer and the Punisher, and the ensuing conversation was amazing. And then the second one they did about Marvel movies, and I think it was I can't remember who it was, maybe from Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men one. The host said that the thing about the comic movies is that they try to do it from like to appease the nerds, but also to appease the people who are new to the whole like world. And as a result, they sacrifice things that the nerds want, but then as a result, they might make things that are confusing that like people who are new to it. So it's like an interesting dynamic having to go back and forth. And I was like, yeah, that's so true, because you get like little bits and pieces. To be clear, before I saw this movie, what I knew about Captain America was like reading like a couple of Civil War comics, which was that like he isn't just patriotic for the purpose of being patriotic in that story. I reread Civil War recently and I hated it. So, which I'm going to do a video about that later, closer to the time the movie comes out, which thankfully the movie's not going to be like the comic, I hope, because wow, that was a mess. That was kind of like the first big, huge crossover comic thing that I read. But anyway, I got this impression from Captain America that he was a guy that I would like reading more about, that he was actually interesting and not a total one note. And so when I saw the movie, and at the time of the movie, I was like, I don't know how I feel about Chris Evans. He was really good in Scott Pilgrim. Before that, I didn't like him. And then I saw this movie, and then 2 weeks later, I was like rewatching the trailer over and over again on the website. And I was like, oh no, we have a problem. this is going to end badly. And as you might know, it kind of has a little bit. So, like I said, I haven't been reading as much Captain America comics as I want to, but that's because I really like Chris Evans' version of Captain America, which is different. And let's kind of start with that. Or maybe I'll make some notes as long as we go into the movie, because in the movie, we start off with finding Steve in the ice. And I know that happens in the comics. He is frozen, and then he wakes up in New World. And but we go from them finding Steve in the ice to the Red Skull breaking into a church and killing people. Yeah. So what did you think about that? Because they don't even like show him right away. They show like the shield in ice, and it's just like foggy. And then they show Red Skull, or they show Schmidt like looking for a blue glowing box and killing people. Like, what was your impression from that?
Well, that immediately got me interested in who the person was, that, because I recognized the Captain America shield, obviously, because advertising.
Because you're my
friend. But then the quick cut to the completely unrelated scene was an interesting transition and dropped you right into the story, which was cool. I did have like immediate like Indiana Jones things of like Nazis hunting artifacts, not Nazis hunting artifacts. I was like, yeah, cool.
Lindsay Ellis did a video on Captain America and all the different movie iterations of Captain America. which is I'll link to that. I'll link to the different reviews of the Captain America movies that I've been watching the past. But she was tweeting, she was like live tweeting, and she was watching it. And she's like, "Was that an Indiana Jones reference?" And it was like, "Probably." Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so yeah, that's good. And then we cut to tiny Steve Rogers trying to go into the army, and not, he's like being rejected on his asthma alone, and also because he's a tiny man.
Yeah, one of the things I wrote down, like, it was like, because I was watching it, and I was sort of like cocking my head a little and like looking at him like, I guess he could have maybe lost that weight, like, but he's short. But maybe he is a lot of actors are short that you don't think are short. So maybe, and then I was looking at it again, I was like, that can't be right. It's, so I was like, I just wrote down like, how the hell is he that skinny? I must know.
Yeah, so I don't remember where I saw this. Wait, go ahead. Sorry, what was that?
Very confusing.
Yeah, well, I remember when the movie came out, and so I was watching recently the director and writer's commentary for Winter Soldier, and they were saying that I don't know if you remember the scene in Winter Soldier where he's talking to Peggy when she's old, and in the whatever or place that she's in, and it's Haley Atwell acting, but they made her look old, and it's a combination of makeup and like CGI effects, and they were like, they did a really good job, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's real uncanny valley for me. It freaks me out. I hate that scene. I love the scene. I hate anyway. They said that that's similar to the effect they used for Skinny Steve, which is that they had when you watch the movie, and there's a scene where they're at the bar, and he's big, and he's getting all the Howling Commandos to be part of his team, and then Dum Dum says, "Well, give us another round and I will totally join your team." So he takes all the empty beer, I don't know what they're called, to the bar, and says another round, and the guy at the bar says, "Where do they put it all?" And that is the guy who is Skinny Steve's body, more or less. He is like the body double. So he would, from what I understand, and I don't know how accurate this is or how much they did this, but basically like Chris Evans would do the scene, and then he would do the scene, and they would sort of like match it.
Composite them probably somehow.
Yeah, you know more about making movies than I do.
That's fascinating. It was like wild to watch it, because I've seen Chris Evans in interviews, and I was like just trying to piece together how that could be possible.
Because he didn't have enough time, even if he were to like slim down a lot and just be like,
yeah, it would be impossible.
Short and be skinny. He didn't have enough time to be buff as he was. Yeah, so they had to just do it like that. So it's really funny because there's a I don't know where it is, but there's a clip where he's doing a push-up. It's Chris Evans, like giant Chris Evans, doing a push-up as if he can't do a push-up. It looks ridiculous. It's awesome. So it's probably on YouTube somewhere. I'll try to see if I can find it later. But yeah, so that's to answer your question. That's basically how they did it. They like had two people and put it together. But it's really convincing. It's really good. And I'm impressed with like the whole acting and everything that goes into that. I thought it was great. Yeah. Yeah. And then we go to the movie theater where he tells this guy who's being very rude during a video that's making people very sad to shut up, and then promptly gets beat up in an alley, which is trying to show you like that he stands up for what he believes in, and what he believes in is being, a good person. And it's just, I've seen this so many times, and I've always taken everything at kind of face value when I watch this movie, but it's been such a long time since I've seen it, and I've watched so many videos about analysis and read so many like Tumblr fan headcanons about the movies and stuff, and so, and then people who question things that, writers make Captain America say that they don't agree with, like in Civil War. So I'm just thinking, like, did that scene give you that immediate impression that like, oh, he always tries to be a good person? Did that like set that tone for you?
Absolutely, yeah. It seemed pretty not ambiguous to me that he is a despite his size, he's passionate about being honorable, and they had already done the line, I think, before that about his father being killed in the war, or his mother, or somebody that he was close to.
Yeah.
And his one of his great desires about going to war was to avenge them, but also the honorable part of it. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, that set that tone for me.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I've been thinking about that, because then, okay, so let's, I'm sick, you guys, so this is going to be a little like wonky. We'll see how it goes. And then we meet Bucky, who saves him. Wonderful Bucky. I know that Samantha has a hard time with him because she sees him as the Mad Hatter from Once Upon a Time.
Oh, that wasn't a hard time. You misunderstand.
I love Sebastian Stan in like that period clothing. He was in a play. I forgot what it was called. Like something about I think it's called The Picnic, something like that. And it's set in like the 50s or like late 40s, early 50s. I'm not sure.
So, wow.
But he is like, he looks good. I'm just gonna say he looks good. I would look it up if you can, like look it up on his Wikipedia or something, but you can find YouTube videos of it. If you are a fan of Sebastian Stan or of like Bucky Barnes pre-Winter Soldier, I'd recommend it. I'll put it in the notes. Yeah, so they go to he gets them, they go to the World Fair, you meet Howard Stark, Tony's dad, you see the flying car, he doesn't measure up in the mirror, and then he's gonna go enlist, because I guess you can do that in the World's Fair, especially because now Bucky's leaving him, and I'm always like, no, Bucky, you can't leave poor Steve Rogers, he's gonna get beat up and left in the alley without you there. And then Steve says, it's not about me, it's about doing the right thing. And Bucky's like, yeah, because you don't have anything to prove. And I was like, oh, but that's so true. It's so true. Like, you could look at it from the point of like, he's always trying to prove everybody wrong and that he can't do the things everybody says that he can't do. And that ties in, and I don't know, I didn't notice this until I saw other people talking about this, that Steve Rogers has a tendency to put himself in danger. Like, he doesn't value his own life as much as he values other people's lives.
Right.
And he doesn't value himself, like, being in pain is to him should not be a big deal as compared to other people being in pain. And there are other heroes who have this, like, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff does this a lot too, but they just sort of like, pain is not a big deal to them even when it should be. Even when you're like, no, you do need to like worry about that.
Yeah.
So throughout the movie, we see him constantly like, with the grenade, with like all these different things. Is this a test? Like, you realize that like he wants to do the right thing, but he may not be able to live very long to do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a good point, actually. I hadn't quite thought about that. But that makes it clear as to why Stanley Tucci chose him for the experiment.
Yeah. Well, that's Stanley Tucci is like the best mentor figure, except for in Hunger Games when he's the best like antagonist mentor figure, I guess. I love Stanley Tucci in this movie, especially because like my idea of Stanley Tucci comes from like Devil Wears Prada, so I went like that to this, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see that works. I'm good with this. So Dr. Erskine finds him and notices that he's kind of giving a speech about how he wants to do good in the world, and he's a tiny person. So he, poor Steve, he has so many, like, somebody like looked up the ailments. I didn't look at all of them, but there's like so many different, like, I don't know if he was that sickly when he was in the comics. I didn't get a chance to look at the original comic, but he was definitely much smaller. But he, I think I read somewhere that he didn't have nearly as many ailments in the comics as he did in the movie.
I think they probably just needed to pack the punch, you know?
Yeah. So Erskine sees him and finds him, and then like he thinks he's gonna get busted for lying on his form, saying that he lives in different places and tried to enlist in like every place he could. And asks him, and this is the line that I think a lot of people point to show his character, and it says, do you want to kill Nazis? And he's like, well, I don't want to kill anybody. I just don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from. And I like that.
Yeah, I did love that.
Yeah, that was, that more than the telling the guy to shut up in the movie theater and then, standing up to him in the alley, I think shows the kind of character that they really want him to, they're really trying to depict. They're really trying to depict him as somebody who doesn't like bullies, and why Erskine picked him because he wanted him to be somebody who. There's like later on, right before the transformation. What does he tell him? Oh, I can't.
Something like strong men
I found it. Okay, I wrote it down. It says because a strong man who has known power all of his life may lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion. And to me, like a handful of people that I've talked to find Captain America like super boring. And I think part of that is the Avengers movie is that he doesn't have a lot to do in the Avengers movie as much as they had to cut a lot too of him kind of getting reacclimated in the world as much as he could. But I think that he in this movie, like he is kind of like the heart, the compassion of the group in a way, because I mean, obviously they all have compassion. They're all superheroes, but
he's more of a moral center than a lot of them, I think.
Yeah, but in a balanced way. Not because that's the problem is that like in our day and age, every time you hear moral center, you immediately think of like some jerk who wants to tell you that, you know, all gay people are bad and you're going to go to hell no matter what you do. It's like, you know, he's more of like, let's look at everything and then make a decision based on that. And to me, like that's, I like that. I like that about him because, you know, I kind of got challenged by my brother to tell him why I like Captain America and I couldn't do it and I'm still working on it. I'm getting there. I got notes. But that's one of the things that I've heard other people who are very much more in the comics universe, who know more about comics, say that that's what they like about him, that he has that, you know, compassion-based reasoning that he tries to go from.
Right.
Which is why I hate Civil War so much. Anyway, so when he says, is this a test? Like there's twice when he says, is this a test? When Erskine asks him, do you kill Nazis? And then when what's his name? General Phillips throws the fake grenade and he covers it with his body.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know how much good that would do, but what? Are you crazy? Like, why did you run away? Oh, man. But before that, we learned more about the Red Skull and how he's using the blue glowing box, which I think is called the Tesseract. I'm like realizing that like I might be confusing the Tesseract with something else, but I'm pretty sure that's the Tesseract. I'm sick again. I'm sick. But using it to make weapons and store energy. And those weapons are terrifying. Those are really scary weapons.
Yeah, vaporizing humans.
Yeah, I hate the scene at the end when they're like,
yeah,
and then people just disappear. I hate that part. I don't look at that part. And then they go back to the base after we learn about the weapons, and we meet Agent Peggy Carter, who is the best ever.
She was awesome.
She was the whole world. I love her so much. She is amazing. And, you know, after watching this movie, you have to go see the Agent Carter TV show because, oh my God, it's so good. It's so good.
That's very, very, very high on my list to watch. It's like, just haven't started it yet because there's so many good TV shows to watch. But yeah.
But, you know, and it's funny because she has a slightly different tone in that than she does in this because of the way the TV show is and everything and the different characters that are in the TV show, and it's set in a completely different place. But it's also very much like her dealing with her grief after everything that happens in this movie, but she, like, the introduction of her just like punching that dude, which some people have been like, that's not like the best indication of like how you should deal with that situation, and I'm like, well, I think that given the, like, if she had been on the street, then maybe that would have been like the best thing. If
he was challenging her authority. It was a very clear situation of her needing to establish, you know, that power, and sometimes a punch is the best way to do it.
Well, I think especially
in that situation.
Yeah, in that situation where she, you know, she needs people to listen to her and not question her, and she doesn't need people like, you know, and people are going to gossip.
She didn't have the time, to be honest, in that situation, she did not have the time to be diplomatic, you know?
Yeah. I've seen her talk herself out of other situations. Like, you know, it's a thing that she can do. And like later on when she's dealing with Steve, like, because he's a person who listens, she has a clear discussion with him. Especially, well, we'll get there. She's good at talking as much as she is punching, which is one of the reasons she is amazing. And then we see Tommy Lee Jones, who is perfection also. Everybody in this movie is awesome. Tommy Lee Jones in this movie is great. We learned about Strategic Scientific Reserve and how they're going to try to give Steve superpowers and how much he sucks at basic training because, like, to the point that other people are sabotaging him. And then this is really, really important to me. Steve Rogers has a Mulan moment when he gets the flag from the top of the
I thought Mulan.
Thank you. Okay, because like
That's what you not? How could you not think of Mulan? I was like, where are the things that he's gonna wrap around and
Exactly. Like it's such a like I was just like thinking about it one day and scrolling through Tumblr, and then I saw that scene from Mulan and Gifts, and I was like, oh my god, Mulan is Steve Rogers. I'm like, Steve Rogers is Mulan. It totally parallels. It totally
completely the same. Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, that's so obvious. It's Mulan.
Yeah, I love that. Like, Mulan
so
is
cool.
one of the best Disney princesses.
Easily.
Yeah. She's not my favorite, but she is the best. Like, my favorite is Tiana.
Yeah.
But like she is weaker than everybody else, but her spirit is strong, and she doesn't even have a serum, and she just kicks ass.
Exactly.
So thank you, because I needed that validation. I've had other people be like, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, no, Steve Rogers is Mulan. Mulan is Steve Rogers. That's just it. and
Full stop.
Yeah. And then, Agent Carter is totally impressed because, was real smart. And everybody's looking at him like, what? That's cheating. And he's like, you didn't say I couldn't do that. And that's the thing. Everybody acts like Captain America is such a total goody two-shoes. He cheats and lies so much throughout this movie. He's a sneaky dude. He does so much of that. There's like that scene in Winter Soldier where like Natasha's like, oh, stealing a car. Where'd you learn to do that? And he's like, in like, during the war? Like, what do you think? Like, I've never done this before? You think I've never stolen a car from somebody before? Yeah. And then that's when the grenade happens, where Phillips and Erskine are arguing about whether Steve is the right choice, and he throws the grenade, and Steve covers it with his body and tells everybody to get back, and then says, is this a test? And my question is it really heroism to cover your body with a grenade? Mainly because I don't understand how grenades work. But I'm thinking of like the situation where like they say that if you are in trouble, like you're being attacked, there's like two of you, and you're being attacked by somebody, and both of you can't get away. If one of you can get away and get help, that's more important than staying with that person. That's what I've heard, and I don't know how true that is. And that's the only reason I'm asking this question as a genuine question. Like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, so if anybody has any answers for that or discussion to impart,
no.
But it's just basically another point that like he was willing to sacrifice himself for other people instead of being the bully who wants other people to sacrifice themselves for him.
Right.
Yeah. Which, it's something I have to think about a lot. It's just something I've been pondering. And then Erskine and Steve toast, and we get a bunch of like information about the history, and then how the serum amplifies everything. And my question is, do you think you're good enough for the serum, Samantha?
I don't want the serum. I really don't.
I like the idea of having like super strength and like a great like mind for tactical stuff, because I suck at that. Like, ask anybody who's played a board game with me. I'm terrible. But I don't know, because like it's not to say that Steve Rogers isn't selfish. Like, he goes and I don't know. Like, it's such a weird question. Like, what would amplify in you if you had to take a serum that would make all those things bigger, including your muscles, which would be a huge bonus?
Yeah. I don't know. I would be afraid of what it would choose to amplify, because everyone lies to themselves about themselves. Like, even if at some point in your life, you think something's more prominent than it is, or you want something to be more prominent than it is. So if it chooses like genetically or based on like kind of an objectivity on what it's going to amplify,
yeah,
I would be too scared to think what that is. I thought that was a really interesting concept, in that, obviously the Red Skull thought he was doing good because he had a warped sense of what was good, and he was a psychopath, but you truly believe that you are doing what you would call good, but it's not actually objectively good. But the serum amplified that as evil because it was evil, but not to him. Yeah. So I thought that was a really interesting component of the serum. So I had a question about that scene, if you want to.
Let me just say that, like, all my favorite superheroes are usually the ones who are flawed, but also have some kind of super strength.
Mhm.
except for Hawkeye Kate Bishop because she shoots arrows. But so for that reason, I think it would be a bad idea for me to have them because they're usually really grumpy people, and I'm kind of super grumpy. So I'm going to go with pass on that. Yeah, go ahead. Question.
Well, I kind of missed the part where he willingly submitted himself to this experiment. Like, it seemed there was a scene missing where he was explained what this was. He just kind of like was there. He did the grenade thing. Then he was in the room with the serum, and it was like I was like, does he know what this is? Like, it was like really bizarre because he did the drinking scene with Santucci, who says, "Oh, you can't drink. You have the procedure tomorrow." And I thought he was referring maybe to something that Steve would think was a normal army procedure, something or other. But then he goes to that, and I was like, wait, is he a willing participant here? Like, did he know what he was doing? It was just like a weird jump that I was like, did I miss a conversation that he had where he knew what he was doing?
So I had similar thoughts, not when I first saw the movie, but now I think that I don't know if this is because of the writers already knowing what happened or everybody assuming that most people know that, like,
that's kind of what I thought.
The trailer, but the thing is that, like, okay, so he meets Erskine, and Erskine tells him, "I have something special planned. If you want to join in, then yes, we'll have you." And he said, "Yeah, whatever. I'll do anything." The second thing is Phillips explained to them that they're part of the Scientific Strategic Reserve, and they're trying to create a new army. So basically, all these people know that they're trying to basically become a new kind of soldier. And the idea is that if it works on one person, it's going to work on the next person. And John, who viewers saw previously on the Joker episode, I asked him about some things, and he was saying that it was just the reason there weren't more super soldiers is because, like, in the comics too, Erskine gets shot, and there's no more guy who can create the serum. And from what I understand, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, one of the reasons that the Hulk was created because he was trying to recreate the serum and instead created the Hulk. So basically, like, I think they knew they were going to be doing something to create a different kind of soldier, but they didn't necessarily know what it was. And I wrote something similar where I wrote, like, this is insane, and, like, just volunteered for a medical procedure with, like, no idea of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like he gives him the penicillin, and he's like, "Oh, that's not so bad. Like, that's penicillin." And then they encase him, and with the needles and everything, and then he's just like screaming, "Keep going!" And I'm just like, this man is desperate to not be himself anymore.
And that was an interesting little moment because I thought the same thing. It was like, yeah, but that's quite a gamble. I mean, if they know what it does and it amplifies that thing inside you, whatever that is.
Which is why they picked the
right
guy who has who tries to make good choices, in that he has reasoning, and like what you're saying about the Red Skull being like amplifying the thinking you're doing good but not having the presence of mind to actually think about it. I don't know if presence of mind is the right word, but the ability to like think past your actions to what the final result will be. And I think that that's one of the things that Steve Rogers has is working on that. And I think that's one of the reasons that and later on in the movies, and I don't know about in the right now I'm trying to like read about Winter Soldier and Bucky Barnes, and then I got to read about Captain America, and I got to read about, there's so many comics, guys. But I think like in the movie, like one of the reasons that they clash at first is that Tony Stark does the same thing in a way, looks at a different size and makes a decision, but does it in such a radically different way than Steve Rogers does that they immediately start fighting. But like in that scene in Avengers where Tony points out to Steve that like, you can't trust Fury. Like, why would you think to do that? He's the ultimate spy. And Steve is like, just get back to work, but then proceeds to go investigate on his own. That to me is like what's happening here, is that he has the ability to think about what he's doing before he does it. Unless it involves his own safety and the safety of other people, then he will just sacrifice himself. So, yeah, that's the thing that got me. It was like, I'll do this thing. But, I think also in that period of time, all you think is, I want to fight the evil that's, possibly going to come to our shores. And I want to prove myself worthy at the same time. And if this will fix that, then good. That's what I want to do. But yeah, and there's also that scene where Peggy like touches his chest, and Haley Atwell has admitted that was totally just her wanting to touch his chest and being in the moment, just being like, oh my god.
That was a really cute scene.
Yeah, she is a delight. Follow her on Twitter and Instagram. She's hilarious. Anyway, we should probably hurry up because a lot of time has gone by already. I'm moving slow, guys. Sorry. So there's been a spy in the group, and then Erskine gets shot and dies. Steve does his first act of heroism in a very clumsy manner, which I found delightful. Especially that scene with the kid where he's like, I can swim! Go get the bad guy!
That was so cute.
And then because Steve is dead, then we learned that Hydra is worse than the Nazis, and that, he's worse than Hitler, which is interesting way to, create a villain in this universe. And then the next thing we see is that Steve getting a blood drawn, and Phillips just dismisses him and says, I was promised an army and all I got was you. Like, you're no help. And that just so baffles me that they would just dismiss him. And I think what it is, he's still seeing him as like skinny Steve who doesn't know how to do anything, and not as this like giant Adonis who knows how to fight. And then, he gets put by the senator into this career as an actor. And I was thinking about this, like, having read so many fan fiction and like, comics and stuff, thinking like, why would he just give up like that? And I'm realizing that I think that what it is that he now has the body and he's still being rejected. Like, that's the ultimate punch in the gut, like he's everything and they still won't let him help.
Interesting. Yeah, I got that a little bit too. And my thinking was he chose, he took that gig as his one way to be involved.
Yeah, and that's, parallels with Gene Kelly and my theory, my little pet theory that I don't tell very many people, but now I'm telling all of you, that this movie, to me, is if Gene Kelly made an action movie. Like, that's what, to me, this is. But it does parallel Gene Kelly because Gene Kelly wanted to fight, and they wouldn't let him, and they made him make, like, propaganda movies instead and do things like that. And
interesting.
Yeah, so Kelly is Captain America. Totally the thing, right?
Totally legit. Yeah,
completely. So he has to be a showgirl for a long time until finally he ends up overseas and it's not working anymore, and all the soldiers are like, wow, do we ever hate you? We hate you so much. And I love that part. I hate watching the scene where they're heckling him because I can't deal with that kind of stuff. But that scene where he's like, I think the girls aren't ready yet, but I'll go see if they're ready. He reverts back to, I love that part.
Yeah.
And then Peggy provides him with a wake-up call, like, well, who's stopping you from doing what it is you wanted to do? And he's like, I hadn't thought about it like that. And I think that's the first time he hasn't, like, just gone out and done what he thinks is right. I think probably.
Yeah, well, I think because he wanted that army experience of camaraderie and following orders. I don't think he thought about being the one hero,
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and because I wrote down a couple notes about this too. It was interesting to me that, and I don't know the history of the comics. I don't know when they first came out, but if they first came out in, the 40s.
Oh, I can tell you, it was before we were even in the war. They published Captain America's literally punching Hitler in the jaw before we were even in it.
See, that's interesting because that kind of is counterintuitive to the wartime mentality, especially in America, where it's all for one, and it was very much a time of not necessarily conformity, but like a little bit of conformity, but people kind of banding together, and the army was a place where your fellow man is your fellow man. There obviously are war heroes, and I'm not arguing that, but for the little guy, to rise up and be, one of the main heroes and the main leader, kind of far ahead as a superhuman, that's an interesting trajectory for a story to take, I think, in that time. So that's a distinctly American story, little guy getting ahead, but in wartime, I think that's just a little bit of a juxtaposition. So I found that fascinating, actually.
Yeah, well, somebody in I don't even know where did I read this? It was either a podcast or somewhere that was pointing out that, like, the two people who created him, I think, were Jewish, and were very aware of what they were doing, and it was almost like a form of protest, like, why aren't we in this war yet?
Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting to find out that it came out before we were in the war, because
and somebody, I can't remember where, I feel so bad not being able to cite my sources, but I think, shoot, maybe it was on Tumblr, which of course means I will never know where it was, but basically, like, I can't remember now. But just, maybe it was on the DVD. I think it was actually on the DVD thing that I was watching, just talking about how they, just bringing about this, like, I don't know what I was saying. Sorry. I was pointing it out that, like, it was before the war, and that they brought all the superheroes to that. The only problem is with that is that once you start looking at those old or early Captain America comics, is that they are way racist. Like, woo!
Yeah, I would not be remotely surprised to learn that.
Especially towards the Japanese, like.
Well, yeah, that unfortunately is also not surprising from that time period.
Which brings me to my favorite Howling Commando in this movie. Way to transition.
Yay, segue.
Yeah, well, because he realizes that Bucky is being held captive somewhere, probably, or possibly dead, and that he needs to go rescue him. And Agent Carter gets Stark to fly a plane, and then sort of hits on Carter, but doesn't, because Howard Stark flirts with everybody. And the whole fondue joke happens. And then he infiltrates a Hydra base, and then goes and saves these dudes who don't know who he is, and are like, this guy is just here saving us. But when they get out of the cells, Dum does like, we're taking everybody, and Jim Morita like takes his his dog tags, is like, I'm from Fresno, Ace, and I have that gif on my phone, and it is like my favorite scene in the movie. When I was in the theater watching that, I was so happy. I was so excited, because even though it's a very, very lighthearted note to something that is super tragic and like horrible in our history, of which there are many things, I was so excited that they pointed that out. That like
that nod was that I just thought the same thing. It was like, that is super awesome and super smart. Like,
yeah. And he proceeds to be like a great character in the movie, and he also shows up in the Agent Carter TV show. And Howling Commandos need to be in Agent Carter more, just in general. I think they're my favorites.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and then I also want to make a note that I saw something that thing that I hadn't been able to put into words, but Steve's sense of humor is very deadpan. And which I think comes from being like the skinny little dude in the room, which totally makes sense, as like the person who often gets overlooked in the room, which, given how loud I am, is surprising. I do a lot of that like under my breath kind of commentary to people, and I think that like that happens, and this happens in here, where he's just like, who are you supposed to be? I'm Captain America. Like, I punched Hitler over like 200 times, just totally straight face. Like, that's totally what's happened. I'm gonna go save my friend now. You guys will go meet you outside.
Yeah, I loved that line. That's cute.
Yeah, and he just does it like straight faced, and it's such a juxtaposition to like him a little while ago looking lost and sad, like, I don't have a future even though I've gone through all of this and I have this body. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I think that's when he's able to converge, like, having this body and being told what to do, to like his personality as when he was skinny and feisty and like not backing down, and kind of putting them into like the one package that is Captain America. Like, that's the moment when he just goes for it and becomes Captain America. And I've never thought of it that way till right this second.
No, I pinpointed that same exact moment too. I think once he got there, and I think he realized who he could be, with all the stuff that had happened.
Yeah, bringing everything in his brain together to create that, do what he thinks is right and use the tools that he has at his disposal, which is apparently being able to do everything. Or as Lindsay Ellis says, Captain America, perfect human. So I have like all these quotes written down that I'm not going to read, but yeah, like, the guy who says, wait, you know what you're doing? Is like, yeah, I've knocked out Adolf Hitler over 200 times. And I just put, like, every time the Howling Commandos are on the screen, I just put little hearts, because I love them. And then the Red Skull, like, runs away because he's like, we can't fight this one dude. We just can't. It's just not going to happen. And then the other thing I noted is Bucky being worried about Steve, while Steve is just worried about getting them out of alive. And Bucky's just like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, that's great. Let's just go. I'm big. We already like covered that. I'm taller. I'm in the army. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. I thought their reunion was like, that was a fun scene to watch. It was interesting because you could tell that Bucky, and it's just kind of a natural human nature thing, I think, with friends like that. He liked being the bigger one. Like, I think there's sort of, he was the protector, and I think he also liked having the edge with the girls, and he liked he liked the power dynamic, and that wasn't there anymore. At all in that scene, and then even more subtly later. But in that scene, he was weak and needed help, and so I thought that was very well acted and very well written, and a very just while all this crazy stuff's going on. I mean, they're practically falling down, into the fire of this building that's about to blow up. But there was like nuance there that was really, they did a very, very good job with that scene.
Yeah, I like that. And the thing I wanted to tell you is that in the comics, Bucky Barnes is a kid. Like he's like
that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so weird because I think for people, especially when you read fan fiction, is that like there are people who have only seen the movie and their fan fiction is interesting. The reason I'm trying to read as many like Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier comics as I can is because I want to see if the tone of the fan fiction I read that is about the MCU Bucky Barnes is the same as like the comics, to see if there's how much of it carried over. Because what happened is the whole Winter Soldier story, which you have already seen, and which, spoilers, whatever, that movie came out a long time ago. He got brought back by Ed Brubaker as this like assassin who was an adult now. And it's a very different, and then they reversed the backstory, they retconned it, or whatever the right word is, to say that like even though he was a kid, he was basically the one who did all the dirty work. He was the one who killed for Captain America, basically, which is terrifying and awful. And they kind of created that, but like as I was watching the little DVD Blu-ray commentary, the Paul, I don't know how to say his last name, Feige, Paul, the guy who's in charge of all the movie stuff, said like they couldn't just put like a kid in a war movie, like that would not work. So they aged him up, like, and now there's these like there's like the group who just saw the movies who see Bucky as like an adult. There's the people who just read the comics and are kind of like, he can't, there's the power thing there. They can't, the people who ship them. And then there's, like the in-between, like me, who like has like, okay, there's the Bucky in the comics and the Bucky in the movies, and how much do they actually overlap? But anyway, I just thought that was interesting, like how they just completely changed this character for the movies, but at the same time didn't change him at all.
Yeah.
Because he's not like a gee whiz Cap kind of character anymore, but he's a much more serious character. And I think it actually helped show who Captain America is by having a friend who is good, but maybe not as good as he is, but supports him endlessly.
Yeah.
I really like that. And then I really like the scene where they show that like, Phillips is having to write to the senator saying that Steve Rogers is dead. And he accuses Peggy saying, just because you had a crush. And she's like, it wasn't that, it was faith. And I was like, that is a good scene, because she says it with such conviction because it's true. She's not, I mean, like, if she had a crush on him, why would she send him out into like a place that he's likely to die? It makes no sense.
Yeah. No, I liked that line too. That really stood out to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't crush, it was faith.
Yeah. And then when he shows up and she's like, you're late. And he's like, I couldn't call my ride. And then you're like, oh, they love each other. They're so cute. Which I wanted to go back to that. I wanted to get your thoughts on the scene when they're driving to the, he's skinny and they're driving through the neighborhood. He's like, I got beat up there and there and there and there and there and there. And he's like, well, why did you just run away? And he's like, you keep running away, you're running forever. You gotta, and they have that whole conversation where he's like, I just don't know why a dame would want, as beautiful as you would want to be in the Navy. I mean a woman. Not that you're not beautiful. I mean,
yeah. I think, again, that was a scene that really highlighted his personality and kind of how at odds it was with many personalities of the time. Because it also was it was sort of him probably taking cues from Bucky and trying to be cool.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But then he heard himself say it, and he was like, that's not me. And then he gets, so I thought that was, again, a really short scene that established a lot about his character.
Yeah, I love that, because she's looking at him like, really? And he's like, no, I mean, you're awesome. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So, and I like that they kind of bonded over that, and that she had not like feelings for him, but I mean not like romantic feelings, but just general feelings. You know what I mean? Like she saw him as somebody who listened and who was capable, even if she wasn't entirely sure what he was like. And then when he proved to follow through at the end, then she was really into it. And then he comes back, and then he's kind of being, you know, embraced into the war effort, I guess, and, you know, helping people out. And then he screws up and kisses the blonde girl, and she gets him so mad she shoots at him, which is the best ever. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I did want to go onto the scene where she shows up in the bar, and like you mentioned before, you know, Bucky is like, "Oh God, I'm turning into you," and she looks amazing, and they're just making eyes at each other, and it's just the best flirting scene in the whole world. And I watch a lot of romantic comedies, and I'm a sap and super cheesy, as anybody will tell you, but that is the best flirting scene ever.
That was good. It was subtle and like subtle but not subtle.
Yeah, it's all the eyes.
But, you know, the person I was watching the most in that scene was Bucky, because I was just really, I think that's actually one of the turning points. And not like, I don't remember much from Winter Soldier, but I feel like that would be a moment that he would look back on and be like, that he was never my friend or something, you know. It was interesting. Like, yeah, I loved that scene though. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, and then you know, they show, you go a little few scenes after that where he gets kissed by the blonde woman who is Natalie Dormer, which I did not realize until like a year ago, because in my head she was just generic blonde lady, and then I rewatched it and I was like, I recognize her. Same with Bucky's date at the beginning of the movie. That's I forgot her name from Doctor Who, one of the more recent companions. But and then they kiss her. But the thing is, that scene is so awkward. Even though the kiss seems like it's very nice, that is like Steve on like, oh God, girl flirting, don't know what to do, don't know how to shut this down. Oh, hey, I'm being kissed. This is awesome. Oh, what do I do?
Yeah. It seemed to me he had very little control in that scene.
No, he wasn't stopping that kiss. He was
no, but that's also interesting.
Yeah, well, like there's that scene earlier on during the tour where he's a woman comes up to like a blonde beautiful lady who's like, oh, Captain America, and he's just like, oh, girl flirting with me, this is amazing. And I think that was an echo of that, of just being like, oh, people are interested in me, but I don't know how to handle it. And then when Peggy's like, oh, you're going to be one of those jerks? Okay. He's like, no. And then like 5 minutes later, completely forgets about that entire conversation, asks her what she thinks of the shield, and then she's like, oh, well, let's find out, and then just like shoots at him. I love Peggy. Like we say, she used her words with him when she needed to use her words, and when he was being a stupid idiot, she shot at him. It's just
exactly. She's just staying true to her.
Exactly. Just you do you, girl. And then there's a montage with the Hellion Commandos, and it is the best. I like that. The part where he's like under the tank and puts the explosion on it, and he's just like,
yeah.
That was great. That guy apparently is Italian and French, and they have this one on the Blu-ray. They have like a special. They talk about all the different Hellion Commandos and how awesome it is, and I just was like, yes, they are the most. I like didn't realize how much I was like love the Hellion Commandos until I watched it this time around. They're my totally favorites.
That was a good montage. Yeah,
and then more Peggy and Steve being because of when he shows on his compass and it has her picture in it.
Yeah,
I like that. And then there's the train scene, and bye Bucky.
That was very sad.
It was very sad, although the CGI was interesting, but it was very sad. Yeah. The thing is, like, for me is that we go from that to the interrogation to Steve in the bar, and for me, the scene of him falling, I remember not feeling super sad, but I also sometimes have like delayed reactions to things. But I remember seeing Steve crying in the bar and just being like, "Oh, damn, that was important. That was an important thing that happened." And that scene is so good because he's trying so hard not to show how upset he is but he can't because obviously it's, you know, the person who's been with him all the time. And then in Winter Soldier, we see him say, even when I had nothing, I had Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's such a good scene. I like that scene. Yeah. So yeah, you said to me in one of text, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but that you were really impressed with him being able to do like good acting as a pretty boy.
No.
Okay, sorry.
I was referring to, well, okay, I do think he's pretty boy, but I was talking about the fact that maybe he had lost that weight as a method actor inside a pretty boy body. But I was genuinely impressed, way more impressed with his acting than I was expecting.
Yeah, you know, watching more, because I became, you know, a little fangirling over Chris Evans and you know, seeing him in different movies over time and in other movies, you could, I really feel like, because like when he got casted, I was like, what? Like, I mean, I knew like a minimum of things, like I do with all things about Captain America, but when everybody was like, what? So he got casted, and I felt the same. And then the Scott Pilgrim movie came out, and he was so good in that, and he was so much the character that he was cast as. And I think after that, I was like, oh, maybe he's going to be good in this. And so I feel like it really depends on what it is, and he can be very good. And it's a little jarring because he's such a guy.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's so weird because his Twitter is like promotion of things like films and you know, other people, things that other people are doing, and then things about sports, and then Buddhism. Like those are the three things he tweets about. And I was like, at first I was like, what? And then now that I've kind of obsessively watched interviews with him, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see how this all sort of fits into like the one human that is Chris Evans. But I think some of that, you know, ability to balance things is what that he seems to be striving for emotionally, is one of the things that helps him be Captain America, is to have that.
Probably.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're getting towards the end of the movie. I'm sorry I'm taking so long with this, but he just basically wants to kill everybody now. No more nice Steve Rogers. And then he just knocks on the front door of the base, gets in there, is getting ready to be beat up by the Red Skull, and it's like, so what makes you so special? This is nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. And I always thought that was kind of, you know, cheesy and silly, but like good. But also like he kind of really is just a kid from Brooklyn, and that's kind of is what makes him better than the Red Skull, is that he doesn't think he's important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which maybe is why people think he's boring, is because he doesn't think, you know, and like I've recently, like, I'm totally into Iron Man. I was Iron Man for Halloween, the new Iron Man comic. I totally love it. I've only read one issue of it. I want to read more Iron Man. And I like about Iron Man is that he's like, I'm awesome and I have proof to back it up. Like I can back up everything that I say, which I love, which I wish I could do. But I like seeing that, you know, Steve Rogers is like, I don't pretend to be amazing. Even if I am, it doesn't matter. It's just about doing what's right.
Right.
Yeah. And then Peggy Carter comes in with a machine gun, and they make eyes at each other some more, which is like the best. Like, aren't you doing something? Like, but you're so pretty, and I have to. And you have a machine gun, but I have to go. And then he gets on the plane, and everything just goes terribly wrong. And I want to ask you, as a person who's critical of films and didn't like Winter Soldier and hasn't seen a lot of superhero movies, if the ending of the movie made any sense to you.
Ending meaning, so the plane.
Like, he gets on the plane to stop Red Skull from dropping bombs on everywhere. Yeah. And when he's on the plane, he fights Red Skull, and then it's like, you know, just power match. And then and like the first time we really see blood is when, you know, they like shoot that guy through the propellers, which is, I hate things like that. And then they're fighting, and then the Tesseract comes out of the box, and Red Skull picks it up and like gets sucked into space or whatever the heck happens there. And then he's like, go ahead.
He gets in the driver's seat and calls Peggy and crashes into the Arctic or whatever. Yeah,
but as has been pointed out on how it should have ended, why couldn't he have done something different? Also, I don't understand how those bombs work, because one of those bombs leaves.
That's what I was thinking. It was like, when that happened, I was like, I hope he disengaged that before it dropped.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm like, that bomb is gone now.
And it's like, so you've done all this other stuff and you don't know how to like hotwire the plane so it's not going to turn around.
Yeah, there's a whole how it should have ended where he's just like, no, I gotta bring it down, and Peggy's like, no, but like, let me just go get Howard. Like, it'll take a few seconds. Like, no, and I'm like thinking, well, it was an autopilot, and then it got smashed, so it's stuck that way. He doesn't know how to change it, even though he like clearly knew how to do a bunch of other stuff before.
Yeah, that was a little. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking if it's more of a like this is a really stupid analysis, and I accept that up front. But like in the morning, if I leave like 1 minute later than I mean to, I'm like totally stuck in traffic that I don't want to be in, or I'm like minutes, like I missed my train. I'm wondering if it's something like that where he was moving so fast that there was no way to have time that if he didn't take it down now, it would have just gone straight.
That's sort of what I gathered. Like, if he didn't take it down now, it would. If it wasn't New York, it would be another city, because he was over like desolate area.
Yeah, it would have been like a tsunami or something. Like I don't. It's just because he was in the Alps. I don't know. I wrote down. I guess it's in a way a matter of traffic. So yeah, that doesn't. I think a lot of people that doesn't make sense too. Like why?
Mm-hmm.
It's not,
it was convenient.
Yeah, it seems more convenient than clear. And I'll also put a link in the notes to the how it should have ended video where you're just like, what? So, but the part of that is important is Steve and Peggy having to say goodbye to each other. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad. Yeah, that's Haley Atwell's such a good actress.
Yeah, I liked that scene.
Yeah, it's so good. And then he's just gone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they're packing things up. They win the war, and then Steve wakes up in the fake 1940s.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
And she comes in like in her Halloween costume.
I know, it's terrible. It looks like she's trying to be in a black and white movie. Like it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it was. I thought that was kind of funny though. I was like, oh, that's cool.
I mean, she looks pretty, but she just doesn't look like anybody else in the movie previous. Like in the setting that we were just in, nothing there. And of course, he wakes up and is like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
And the look on his face, like the way he's like waiting and engaging, like, "Where am I? Tell me where I am." And isn't like he isn't thinking for a second that this woman is not dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like, and as soon as those guys come in, he's like, nope, I'm out of here. So runs out into the street and is like, oh, what is this place? And then the thing that made me laugh was he's like, you've been asleep, Cap, for over 70 years. And then Nick Fury says, you gonna be okay? And I'm like, no, of course he's not gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie ends.
And that's it.
So what did you think of the ending? I felt like it was a little bit too much like Pirates of the Caribbean 2, where you're like, okay, ready for the next one?
I don't know. The ending felt a little rushed, but I had enjoyed the movie up to that point, and I enjoyed the characters, and when Samuel L. Jackson showed up, I was like, oh yeah, I think I've seen him in one of the Avengers movies. I get where this is going. But yeah, like I enjoyed it. I could see, wanting to follow the character, to the next movie. So yeah.
I just want to say again, not again. I want to say something that I've been thinking about a lot, that you won't necessarily know what I'm talking about, but you might have seen this. There's a scene in Avengers Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie, where they're fighting, and then Captain America says language after Tony Stark, Iron Man curses, and then they all make fun of him about that for the rest of the movie. And the reason that doesn't make any sense is because, have you seen the Howling Commandos? Why? There's no reason, like, obviously they all were cursing up a storm all the time, among other things, and, like, no, like, this person who is Steve Rogers would never be, like, chastising people for their use of language while they were fighting. I don't, in what context, unless they were around children, I don't see.
Huh. Well, that seems like it is. It's creating the Captain America persona as a more simple, moral center, 1950s-esque person for people who maybe haven't seen the Captain Americas, but they're seeing the Avengers, so they needed that character to be more black and white. I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird because he also said like, "Oh, it just slipped out," and I'm like, "From where? Like, where did you habitually say language? You're surrounded by adults who clearly, and you have been your entire life, like as if Bucky never cursed. Like, you clearly know that ladies can handle things. I mean, hello, Peggy Carter." I have a whole rant about Age of Ultron built up and just like coming out in little.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy you liked it. We've been going on for like over an hour, and I'm so sorry. But like, I'm so happy you liked it, and I was right about it. Maybe sometime we can have a little movie marathon and watch Avengers and watch Winter Soldier and see if you change your mind at all. But I know a lot of people that I admire don't like Winter Soldier for various reasons, and I am okay with that. I promise. I'm totally okay with that. Totally okay with that. So what are your final thoughts on Captain America?
Again, like I was saying, loved it. Definitely made me want to watch Winter Soldier again, as now I'm having a little more backstory. And
I wanted you to say that thing you told me about
I know I don't want to say it because you made so much fun of me.
I know I only made fun of you because it makes sense, and I was like, I want what you said to be true, but I don't think you thought it through that much. Okay, I'm just gonna tell it then because Samantha.
No, let me tell it.
Then you tell it.
No, well, I was saying that I thought it was cool that at the end of the credits they had a little scene and then they had a trailer, and I'm used to seeing scenes at the end of the credits. Like that's a pretty normal thing in a lot of movies. Say at the end of the credits you get a secret scene, and but then I'm not used to seeing a trailer at the end of the credits like that. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I've seen the secret scene but never seen a trailer. So I was like, that's so cool, because I wonder if the filmmakers were making an homage to 1940s films, and because the word trailer is trailer because they used to show previews at the end of the movies rather than at before. So I thought, oh, that's cool. They're sort of wrapping it all together, and that's really awesome. And then you made fun of me.
I'm sorry. I laugh real loud at stuff when I get excited, and it comes off as making fun. And it's not. I wasn't trying to make fun of you. I was just laughing because I don't give the filmmakers enough credit. Not the filmmakers, but the people who put together everything for all of it. In that's what they were thinking of. I think all they were thinking is like, we want people to be excited about the next Avengers movie. Everybody's really looking forward to there actually being, because at that time, the idea of there being an Avengers movie was like so brand new, as opposed to now where we're like, please don't be bad, please don't be bad. And so I think they were just like, be excited. But I like to think that that's what they were thinking, like, let's do an homage to this. So pretend that that's the case. And that's why I wanted you to tell it, because I thought it was really cool, and not because I was trying to make fun of you. I just thought like, I really wish that was the case, but I don't feel like, I think they were. I
guarantee you there was one person in that editing room that was thinking that.
Good. I like that. That makes me laugh. Okay, well, this is one of my favorite movies, and I'm happy I got to watch it again, and I'm happy you liked it. And
me too.
I think it doesn't get enough credit for what it is, and that it's a very good, like, kind of period movie with great characters and really good acting, and a story that is now different from the usual Marvel kind of method of storytelling that we're getting a little tired of, and we want to shake up a little bit. And I think that, despite the fact that for some people this movie might not be their cup of tea, get it? Joke. I'm tired. That, I think it should be acknowledged for being different and very well acted and good. So that's my defense against the Captain America movie. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Well, hopefully I'll be a little bit more sharper and like on it and stuff. And thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later, Samantha. Bye.
Bye.